Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Always Believer. It's Motivational Monday with your host, Ariadna, and your co host, Cassandra. Hi.
Oh, hello. How's it going?
Doing pretty good, energized, ready to do this. And I love today's quote. But yeah, so how are you, first of all?
I'm ready to start the week. I love today's quote. I want to discuss it further, and I am very excited for this Motivational Monday.
Me too. I mean, we're always excited, of course, but we love this, I want to say this author, of course, but this person and this quote. So I'm assuming I can say this quote, of course. So today's quote is "Stop blaming outside circumstances for your inside chaos" by Steve Maraboli. Maraboli in Spanish.
Yeah,
Such a freaking great quote.
it's a lot to take in
It
because
is.
I do think it has a hard inner look at yourself, especially with a lot of um, like it's hard. You never want to be the one who's responsible for things or taking responsibility for things, that even if you believe someone else is at fault. But that is one of the requirements that we all have to stop blaming other people for things that occur in our lives. Like it's as simple as that. And it's really easy to kind of fall into that and start doing that, especially, like if things don't go your way and you feel like you could blame other people, but internally, it's always on you to make the decision in your life and make those things happen.
110% agree, without a doubt. I mean, it's very easy to blame everybody else and blame your circumstances as well. And I am blessed enough, lucky enough, I am driven enough. I don't know how to say because people have different quotes for different things or different feelings for different things. And right now it's like, am I lucky? In the sense of like people are like, it's not luck, like you make your own luck, basically. That's what I was trying to get at with that train of thought. Circling back to what I was saying is that like I've had a hard upbringing and it's something that I'm the opposite of a shame. Like I'm like it's not proud of, but like I can speak up about it. I can talk about it because like we've said before in this Motivational Monday this season, talking about things is important. So circling back to this kind of mindset, I learned very quickly that everything you do depends on you. And that leads to like treat people with kindness, treat other people the way you want to be treated because literally everything's a reflection of you and what you bring into this world. So you gotta like it goes the simplest question not question sorry example there you go that I can think of right now is you're going out for a picnic and yeah it's sunny but there's a slight chance of rain and you look at the weather and that's what it's telling you. You're like it's up to you whether you bring the umbrella or not. It's up to you whether you change that picnic for another day or you find a place where there's shelter as well so you can quickly run out of the rain. You can't be complaining about the rain when it starts pouring down on you when you knew it was coming or when you knew that some way, somehow, this was up to you. You know what I mean? And that's like a little simple example of like layman's terms because we can go very deep into this quote. And yeah, so like learn to take responsibilities for your actions. That's one of the first and foremost things. And then I have like a bunch of examples, but I'll let you talk a little bit more.
It's as simple as that, exactly. Or even choosing to go out into the rain, like
Yeah.
don't not holding yourself back. For me, I definitely have been struggling in the past and up until this point with kind of like my personal relationships with men. I've been having a hard time, and it's something that I've been working on. And I decided to seek therapy. I'm actually in therapy right now and talking to somebody to work through past family issues leading into my insecurities with long, serious relationships, because I have not, honestly have not been very good at opening up to men for some reason. I mean, I feel like I can open up to strangers, but when it comes to like a personal relationship, it's just so freaky to me. And that's my own responsibility. I mean, am I putting myself in a lot of situations to meet men? No, I would argue no, I'm not. So what can I do to change that? This is just a personal situation that I'm in right now because I feel like I have done things professionally. I feel like a lot of aspects of my life are very positive or very good, but this one is something that I have to show up and look in the mirror and say, like, I can't wallow in self-pity. I had a lot of problems in the past, and like, how do I work through that, and how do I go into a new relationship with an open mind?
Exactly. I think that's something so meaningful. First of all, yay therapy. We're definitely pro therapy. Everyone needs someone to talk to. And yeah, you can have a friend, you can have a coworker, you can have a partner, you can have a parent. But other than that, you need like an actual licensed person who is willing to listen to you and actually guide you a little bit. I don't want to say better, but a bit more professional way, of course. So yeah, yes, therapy, please. You remind me of a couple of examples. One is friendships. Um, I used to have a lot of different relationships with friends that people would kind of take advantage of me because I would always give in and cave in to their needs and what they're saying. And then whenever they messed up because they were too late or they didn't reply back or they ghosted or whatever you want to insert here, basically, without getting into too much details because about this episode will be an hour long. Um, they didn't take responsibility for their actions. And that would make me feel frustrated, not cared enough, not loved enough. And I was like, what the F am I doing wrong? What's happening here? So, what I learned recently, and I think once again, we've probably mentioned COVID every single episode recently, but I think we kind of have to because we got to embrace the bad with the good. And what happened a lot with 2020 and the whole pandemic and quarantine is you also got to see your real friends and that kind of friendship through the hard times and the goods. So with this particular friend or relationship in particular, I had to learn my way of knowing how to let go, when to let go, and knowing that that person is not blaming themselves, and that's their issue, not mine. And then at the same time, what am I permitting? What am I allowing to bring that into my life, or why, or how? Like, I am also deserving of self love, of course, self love, sorry, of love, of worthiness, of respecting my time and my feelings. Because if you just only call me when things are good or when things are good for you or the timing's good for you, then you're not respecting who I am as a person because, friendship goes, it's 50-50. So it's kind of like your thing with, men. Excuse me. So sorry. Just, I get caught up so much. And that's kind of where, as always, going full circle to what you were saying, relationships. I feel like that's something big. And within all this, I think when I started, rambling on as I always do, I said two things. And that was the first thing. And the second thing is, your life really depends on you. And everything you do, you have the power to create whatever you feel like. It's not what happens to you, is what you do about it. Yes, it could have rained in your picnic and you could have been really frustrated, but at the same time, you could be like, oh my God, it's just rain. It's fine. You know, I kind of shake it off. Many people choose to say, oh my God, I had a picnic and it started raining and then I got so frustrated and I blamed the bus driver for driving too slow and I couldn't get to the picnic on time, or I blamed my partner for forgetting to bring the umbrella, or I blamed somebody. You're like, no, you had the power and the decision to understand that it was going to rain or to bring an umbrella or whatever. Once again, it's a very, very simple example because if not, this episode would have been a lot longer. But yeah, tell us a tale, Cassandra. What more thoughts do you have?
I want to go a little bit more in depth because, when you get into a fight with someone, because let's be real, we are humans, and as good of as our intentions are, and if we are showing up every day, like, we still get off track a little, and emotions still rise and fights still occur. And one of the things that I've been doing is like if I get into a big fight with a family member, a friend, if for any reason, I always want to say, well, that was, that wasn't my fault. Like that was definitely that their fault, like that they felt that way to yell at me about it. But now I'm actually, before I even have that thought, I'm trying to sit down and be like, what could I have done different in that situation? Like for it not to get to the point where we got into an all out blowout fight. Like, how could I have stopped that from occurring?
I agree. Without getting into, once again, too much detail, especially when it comes to family members, I've learned to walk away. When it comes to family members or friendships or just relationships in general, once again, I've learned to take the high road and be like, do I know that this is a situation that is going to end up in a scream fest because we have two different opinions about a subject? Yeah. So what I'm going to choose to do instead of like going to a scream fest, because that ain't me. I'm very zen. I'm very hyped up, but I'm very zen. I walk away. I literally just did it yesterday. It was getting into a very silly argument of like literally nothing, but the other person was like, "I want to be right. I want to be." I'm like, I'm gonna walk away because I don't need this in my life, and I'd rather just be, relaxing somewhere else. And that's a perfect thing with this quote. Like, it would have been so easy to blame the other person. It would have been so easy to be frustrated and have like a really bad rest of my afternoon. Nah, dog. That's not how we do here. Like, it's fine. You do you.
And have you ever met that person, like maybe someone in your life that never seems to get upset or like into big fights or into conflict?
Yes, I have.
The things I would say is usually if you're not willing to kind of like confront some things that are happening, because it's just hard, like no matter who you are, like sometimes a conflict is the only way to resolve and move on to reconciliation. And I found that the people who are not willing to face conflicts the most sometimes are internalizing it the most too. So, like, they're taking it inside, which again adds to the chaos.
It adds to the inner chaos. I mean, like that goes back to the example I put about friendship. The same thing happened to me when this relationship in particular, because this person, like I said, not only didn't take responsibility, but also like when they came back into my life and they were like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry, like I ignored you. I was going through like a really hard time," or like you were too, like just little nonsense of like an explanation. And I'm like, "But we still didn't talk about it. I still had feelings that you hurt." And you're just brushing it off like, "Oh, the past isn't the past." Oh, believe me, I'm the first one that says the past in the past. Believe me, I move on. There's too many goodness in my life and in life in the universe in general for me to hang on to the freaking past. But at the same time, I'm like, how do you not value my feelings? How do you not understand that like you have to talk about it so we can actually have a better relationship and flourish from here instead of just like, oh, that's it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've definitely met those kind of people. And one of the biggest thing I want to say before we definitely finish this episode, because once again, it could be literally an hour long or then some. Um, well, I did say at the beginning, but I do want to reinstate taking responsibilities for your action because yeah, I'm Zen, but I also make mistakes. I also say things that I don't mean, and I'm like, oh my god, or I do things, or just take responsibility. Like, it's okay that you messed up. It sucks, obviously, especially if it's someone that you love. But even if it's just like a random stranger, like someone feel bad, I'm like, oh gosh darn it, they didn't deserve that. I mean, I don't think I've gone to that extreme in a very long time by any means, because I'd rather give goodness into the world. But once again, like you said, we're human beings, so like be kind to yourself and understand that you can make mistakes, but be sure to take responsibilities of that action because you're you. You're the only you there is. You are only living with yourself. If you complain about people who leave their carts in the middle, like the parking lot, for example, but at the same time you're not putting the cart back, then what's the freaking point? Then you start doing it, you know?
And I mean, I'm not going to get this right because I don't have this quote off the top of my head, but it's to the effect of, enemies are basically like they're the ones who prey on you the most, because you personally, like, not prey on you physically, like in your mind, because in your mind you're holding these enemies, like, that's my enemy, this person is doing such and such, and you're worried about them and you're thinking about them all the time. They might not even be, they don't even know you, maybe. I mean, they don't even
I
have.
agree. Oh my God. Yeah.
So you have to come to your own decision of, is it worth it to keep an enemy in my heart and my mind whenever I could just forgive them and move on with it? Like,
Not only enemies, but grudges. People who have grudges, I'm like, I let it go. Like I said before, like I'm the first person gonna let it go because like, well, there's no point, and that person's probably not even thinking about you. It's
right.
he or she's probably not thinking about you. The fact like, oh my God, he did my boss, my whatever. No, go live your life the way that you need to, because if you are in that kind of mentality with whoever it is, and sometimes it's difficult, sometimes your parents, sometimes your sister, sometimes it's someone, your grandmother, I get it, but at the same time they're human beings and they're people, and a label is just a label. So you got to walk away from that and have like, you know, have less inside chaos, and that's one of the biggest ways, without a doubt. I love that you mentioned that, of course.
Yeah, and
um
it's so much easier to say it in words than do it, because sometimes grudges, though, run like soul deep. I mean, like, I've met people that would not talk to some of their family members to say, like, you know, even in a bad circumstance. So I do think that it merits just like a overview of, is it worth like holding this kind of thing close to my heart? Like, I want to be a good person, I want to do good things, so like, let it go. Like, it's it's so hard. So I'm not saying like you can do that in one day, or that you could maybe ever do it in a full capacity, but maybe let some of that just kind of slide off of your back. And yeah, like, maybe you're not going to be good friends with someone again, like at the same level, but maybe it's just worth, hey, like, this can be an acquaintance that I do talk to like once or twice a year. They're just not maybe worth all of my time after that. I don't want to worry about it anymore. And once you move them to that position, then you don't even worry about them, because you're like, that's all the time I can give you at this point.
Preach. I don't think I want to add anything more to that. Because you know, I repeated it for the fourth time. If not, this episode would be really long. But yeah. And I guess well, let's repeat the quote first before we continue. So what's today's quote? I can
It
repeat it. That's right. Sorry. You can tell I'm out of it one. Yeah, so today's quote once more is "Stop blaming outside circumstances for inside chaos" by Steve Maraboli.
And yeah, if you have anything to add, one of the questions that we came up with for this episode is, what actions do you need to take responsibility for, and how are you going to use that to your benefit? And that's a hard question, and it's
That
not
is.
the answer. And you don't have to tell us specific things if you don't want to share them in person with the community, but maybe you have a thought that adds to like someone healing from some of their past trauma and like some of the enemies they've had. So this is just a week of forgiveness.
Yep. I
It's
love
just
that. It's a week of forgiveness. And just like, even if you don't want to answer that particular question, that we'll definitely have it down below in the comments. Um, Give us a tip on how to forgive or how to let go, and just let's help each other as always. Let's lift each other higher, and let's just make ourselves glow even more.
yeah, time. It's time to let some of that go so you can be a more positive and better, you'll be a more positive and better human for it.
I agree. I completely agree. So yeah, so thank you very much for listening to us today. Thank you very much for being with us, Cassandra, as always. And we'll see you next Motivational Monday. Bye, Team Flyer.
See you next week.